Welcome to Home Education Matters, the weekly podcast supporting you on your home education journey.
Hello, welcome to our live. We've had some technical issues this morning, which has been a lot of fun for some of us, for 2/3 of us, and much less fun for 1/3 of us, who's Emily, who had to sort it out. So thank you for that, Emily. You have
If in doubt, turn it off and turn it back on again.
That was literally it. It was like when you have to bang something, bang it and it'll work. It's fine.
If in doubt, just exit and then restart again. Hard reboot. Today we are very excited to be joining you for another of our lives. We are now uploading these lives onto YouTube in a beautiful edited form. I've been learning video editing in the last week, and so you can inspect my my achievements on YouTube, because last week's live, which was about how to home educate when it's all going completely wrong, that was a lot of fun. Emily and I did that one last Friday, and that is up on YouTube right now if you would like to watch that. And we will put the link wherever we're watching. And this one is also going onto YouTube, and it will be up on YouTube next Friday. So today we are talking about, well, it's a controversial one. I like a good controversial one. So we are talking about.
This is going to be bad.
It's going to be messy.
I'm going to get cancelled.
Whenever you say that, I think of the Taylor Swift song. The good thing I like my friends cancelled. Which is lucky, Charlotte, because you do get cancelled, and I'm okay with that. So
I'm going to get cancelled. I am. This is going to be the end of me.
The end of you.
This is going to be the start of me having 300 angry followers on Facebook.
Fine, let's beat the algorithm. So
yeah,
we saw an article in the Telegraph about a week ago, and it was called something along the lines of, "There's no such thing as SEN, children are just naughty." And I sent it in our WhatsApp chat to the other two, and I was like, oh, I so want to talk about this, because I think this is very interesting, and I think we're all going to have different perspectives. I read the article. It was an opinion piece, which means that obviously it's their job to be controversial. But the woman was basically saying that we have got to the point where, instead of tackling a lack of discipline and bad behavior in children, we are preferring to opt for a soft diagnosis and label that excuses us from having to handle being a parent and getting involved in our child's behavior. She's saying that over the last few years, there's been a proliferation of labels like PDA, autism, ADHD, OCD, you name it, anxiety disorder. And she's saying that we are putting these labels in as a reason as parents to go, I'd love to do something about my child's behavior, but they got ADHD, so you're just going to have to put up with that, or they got autism, so that's why they're screaming, or whatever it is, right? And she's saying that these labels are actually being used by parents as an excuse to not parent their children. Now, the opposing view, of course, is that these labels are actually identifying differences in how people react to different environments, and differences in how some people's brains work, such that they exhibit behaviors in a way that is different to other people's behaviors. And the label allows us to be compassionate and inclusive and accepting of those things. And by giving our child that label, it is not an excuse not to parent. It's an excuse to parent in a way that feels compassionate and accepting of our child's uniqueness. I think that's the two kind of viewpoints. So I think we're all going to have a slightly different opinion on this. And I'm going to go, first of all, to Charlotte, because I'm a brave woman, and I would like to hear what Charlotte has to say.
Oh, what? You just dobbed me in. That's it. Straight away. Done in. Just Absolutely. Done for the throat. I see. Thanks. I love
Charlotte,
you too.
You'll notice, doesn't have her face in the video, so she can say what she likes. Emily and I, we just have to go and cop the flack.
I'll end up getting like egged in the street, like walking down the street with my kids and get egged. The kids will be like, "Mum, why did that lady throw eggs at you?"
Shouting, like, how dare you? Yeah,
literally. I am a child psychologist. I will just say first.
That's not going to get you off.
Oh, I thought that might save me a little bit. I also have a very, what people describe as gentle practice when it comes to my children and my parenting. So I do very much believe that, you know, autonomy, all of those things matter, and etc., etc. However, I am seeing, me personally, in my existence of the world, I am seeing lots of people use that, yeah, but he's autistic, yeah, but he's ADHD, for just downright unruly behaviour that is just not okay. Like, I had all of my kids with me on my own in Jump Street, and there was a lady that was probably, I'd say, 17 or 18, and very, very heavily disabled, like very severely disabled. And she attacked one of my children and broke his glasses in half, punched him, and the carers just sort of stood there and said, well, you know, she's disabled. And it was like, yes, she absolutely is. Of course she is. However, are we just going to not even attempt to tell this person, young adult, lady, whatever, that it, you know, not even attempt to give an explanation? Their attitude was sort of like, well, she isn't going to understand, so there's no point me even saying it. And it was like, yes, but and this was quite a while ago, he was probably 10, maybe. He was a considerably littler than her, and she really hurt him. Like, he was really crying and his glasses were broken in half. And even when I spoke to the people that were there, like the you know, Jump Street that run it, they were sort of like, oh, well, there's not really anything we can do. And I was like, well, one, I now have property that's damaged that I'm going to have to go and pay for and replace. Two, my child is now traumatized and absolutely distraught that he's just been attacked from his point of view by an adult. Obviously, children don't always understand that they're disabled, etc. Like, you know, they're little, they don't really understand the concept of what that means. And also, the other part of it, on the flip side, he is my child that's autistic, so he has also seen someone that has got the same quote unquote label as him behaving like that. So now, if he then goes and decides to copy and behave like that, what am I supposed to say to him? Oh, well, you know, you can't do that. You can't just go and hit someone and attack someone. Yeah, well, I'm autistic. That's what that lady said. What would I say in that defense? Because he's right, isn't he? He's that's what's happened, and he's not seen any comeuppance or consequence or, you know, etc. And I have got an autistic child and an ADHD child, and I have never excused bad behaviour because of their diagnosis. It's never happened, and I never would. It doesn't give you the right to hit people. It doesn't give you the right to throw things at people. It doesn't, you know, there is no label in the world that allows you to abuse other human beings like that. We're then stepping into dangerous territory. Okay, so if a husband that's been diagnosed with narcissistic behavior disorder, which is a disorder, that gives him the right to manipulate and abuse his wife because he's got that disorder. That's where we're going to start slipping into if we keep excusing. And I'm talking, this is the bit that I want to make very, very clear. I'm talking generically bad behavior. I don't mean screaming and shouting, being overwhelmed and being, you know, having a sensory meltdown. That's not the behavior I'm talking about. I'm talking about physical and abusive behavior from children, hitting, throwing, breaking stuff, you know, calling people names, calling people horrible words. That's the behavior I'm talking about. If we're talking, you know, a kid's laying on the floor screaming and having a sensory meltdown, fine. That is because they are autistic, ADHD, whatever. I don't really care what kids are doing and screaming about, as long as they aren't hurting anybody else.
Yeah, but I get what you're
care.
saying. And I hear what you're saying. And what you're saying is that if the behavior is hurting somebody else, then that's not okay. And if it isn't hurting anyone else, then that is okay. But the source of the behavior is the same. The source of the behavior is autism or ADHD. So you said, oh, if they're lying on the floor screaming, then that's the autism, that's okay. But surely if they're standing up screaming at another person, that's still the autism. Why is that not?
Is it though?
I
Or is
don't
it
know.
taught behaviour?
Well, why is lying on the floor screaming autism and standing up screaming not autism?
Because the way I see it and the way I have learned and worked and dealt with it all is that there are certain behaviours in human being behaviour that are natural and are biological and are, supposed to be there, as in our nervous system response. So screaming, as in just a loud ah, is meant to be there because that is a nervous system response that your body feels uncomfortable, and that's what the same sort of as throwing stuff. Like toddlers do go through this throwy stage where they're learning the skill of throwing. However, obviously it's your job as a parent to teach them that yes, we throw balls, we throw this, we don't throw hard toys at people's heads. So what I'm trying to say is there's a difference between a kid standing and verbally screaming just a loud noise versus calling someone horrible names. If a kid in a sensory meltdown or a overwhelm or whatever it is that they're going through is calling someone something and aiming all their anger at that's been taught.
So
That's been
you're saying that 1 second, Emily, you're saying that if a child is hitting the wall, if a child is hitting a wall, for example, then they're releasing their nervous system. But if a child is hitting a person, they need to understand that a person is different to a wall, and they can't
yes,
hit a
yes,
person like they can scream at the air, but they can't go into someone's face and scream at them because that's another person. So I get that distinction. Emily, what
yes.
were you going to say?
No.
Well,
I love you, Emily.
I don't disagree with you, but my opinion is that we need to be teaching our children safe ways to regulate. And we
Yes.
also, as parents, need to be aware if your child gets overwhelmed in busy environments, don't take them there.
Yeah.
Like,
Completely
this
agree.
is what annoys me, is that people want their children at parties, going to Jump Street, going to all of these places, and then they're screaming on the floor or they're screaming in someone's face because they're dysregulated. Take them out. And I liken it to, I was in the shop the other day and a lady had a baby, a very young baby, that was screaming in a buggy. Now, I am very sympathetic if you need to quickly get some shopping and your baby's screaming and whatever, like, but she was completely unflustered, was walking really slowly around this shop, letting her baby scream, just going, "Oh, you're all right." It started to dysregulate me. So I rushed and got my shopping done and got the hell out. But there's a difference between, yes, you will find yourself in situations where your child gets dysregulated, but you're in a situation where, it's happened but then deal with it. Remove them from the situation, help them to regulate, teach them where. I have to teach my daughter screams and hits and everything. I've had to, I manage things so that I support her not getting to that point. And B, I have to say to her sometimes, you can carry on screaming to regulate yourself. That's absolutely fine. But I will have to remove myself from the room because it's now dysregulating me. And although absolutely we all have a biological reaction to things, and it is sometimes out of our control how, particularly for children, how we react in situations when we're dysregulated. We also have to appreciate that has an impact on other people, and that may not be our intention for that to be a negative impact, but the reality is sometimes it is, and we have to accept that.
I think that, and Fina has put in the chat exactly this, that in actual fact, she doesn't go to shops and cafes. She shops online. And I think that when my children were small, up until the age of about 4, I did not go to coffee shops. I just didn't go because I knew that they would like throw salt and pepper pots around or just be like annoying to the other people. So I limited my lifestyle choices to be mindful of other people living their life.
There's also an element of having to. So I do. So my 2-year-old, I do take him out, and I do take him for dinners, and I do take him in coffee shops. However, me and his dad have worked really, really, really hard, and we are like cutthroat with his behavior. Like, we are not worried to get up in the middle of a meal and leave, because if that's what needs to happen, because we are having a bad time. But we have worked so hard in order to however, I do find it funny that Zoe is watching this, because we went out for dinner last night and he threw a piece of chicken across the thing. He very rarely throws food, but he threw a piece of chicken across the thing, and he went, "Oh, it blew away." And I was so busy laughing at him that I actually didn't do anything, because there was the fact that he said that it blew away that I found hilarious. But this is what I mean. Like, he wasn't throwing it at anyone. He wasn't. She just put flying chicken. I will put a PSA in there that my husband was winding both of the children up and throwing noodles at them. So I had absolutely no intention of telling the 2-year-old off when the adult in the situation was throwing noodles. Yeah, it's, if you want to be a part of the places where you are going to dysregulate other people if your kid is kicking off, you need to make sure as a parent that you are working your hardest to make sure you've put your kid with the right tools in place. When I have an ADHD child that I have to take in shops. I don't always have a choice. I have solo parented her for a lot of years, and I didn't always have a choice. I have to go into shops with her. I print out a list of my shopping. I get her to find the things that we want to go. I give her the BP scanner thing so that she can concentrate on that. I had her in the trolley until she was like 5, just so that she couldn't run. And these are all the things that I made sure I put in place so that my child didn't dysregulate herself and other people in shops, because it isn't right. You can't just teach your kids that however they behave and however they dysregulate or function is okay in every sense of the world. Like, it's not okay everywhere.
Let me challenge that then, because I feel like otherwise we're just agreeing with the Telegraph writer, which doesn't make me too happy. So
I am shocked that this is all our opinion.
And so, like, let me put a different opinion then, because you mentioned there about being unruly, right? And you talked about bad behavior. Now, unruly means going against the rules. And as home educators, surely we are bucking up against social norms inherently by not choosing to put our children in school. Isn't this about society putting rules in place about how children should or shouldn't behave, how children should or shouldn't express themselves? And are we not basically saying you're impinging on my life as an adult by your child being noisy or throwing stuff around or whatever? And isn't this just about the autonomy of the child and taking that away?
I think there's an extent-based level. Emily, you agree?
I was just going to say, I know where a lot of the undertone of a lot of this is stop pandering to your children, saying they don't want to go into school and kicking off, and stop that's where a lot of this comes from, that, oh, there's all these children getting these labels, and then there's all these parents going, well, I can't get them into school, that's why they've not gone into school today, or that's why I'm home educating.
Or they need special support in school, and then obviously it's costing a fortune, and this poor Telegraph woman, her taxes are going to have to go up to pay for it. I mean, God knows she can probably afford it.
And I don't agree with, if my child is saying to me, I can't cope in this situation, or I'm not taking them to places or pushing them into doing things that are outside of their comfort zone because they then melt down or have this naughty behavior, that side of it is not okay. Like that's not naughty behavior, that's dysregulation. And putting those support systems in place, or saying, do you know what, you don't have to do that, or I'm not going to force you, I'm going to put you in a situation where you're going to exhibit behavior that people are going to think is naughty,
But who
That
cares what
is
people think? Who cares what people think about
no,
your
no.
child's behavior?
I don't care what people think, but I mean, as in, like, they're going to have a massive meltdown that other people would say you shouldn't be doing that. It's the flip side of the argument, isn't it? Like, if my child is having an absolute meltdown because they've been put into a situation that they're not comfortable in, that's not my child being naughty. That's my child's nervous system expressing that they are uncomfortable and they are not coping. It's how parents react to that. So if parents just continue in that situation and are like, well, that's just my child having that behavior, as opposed to a parent that says, this situation isn't okay because my child is displaying behavior that says they don't feel comfortable, and then they do something about it. They take them out of that situation. So it might be taking them out of school, or it might be saying, I don't know, you will leave this party, or they might be uncomfortable because there's a lot of noise. I go to a homemade group, and there's a girl that gets quite distressed by noise. So sometimes when the noise level gets a bit high, they just say to the group, can we just bring the noise level down just so that, it's calmer for Violet, whatever. That's managing it so that, she doesn't end up getting violent and things with the other children,
But that's the
because she gets so
environment.
distressed.
That's the environment altering and adapting to fit your child, which is surely what we should be pushing for. We shouldn't be restricting our child's behavior. We should be working towards a world where the world adapts and responds to these the needs of the individual. So if for example, I mean, you don't even have to go on Instagram for one day to see somebody with ADHD saying, oh, the work environment needs to adapt. It needs to have, like flexi working and all of that, right? And there's an understanding that as adults, we have the right for the world to adapt to us. Why are we not having that with our children?
But we do, but also as an adult, like, I know, like as Fina said, she doesn't like shops, so she uses online shopping. She doesn't expect the supermarkets to change how they are.
But they should do. And they have actually. They have like autism opening hours and stuff like that, like quiet opening hours. And that's only because
But they're not.
we're pushing for that, right?
Yeah, and I agree. Like, and that all of that is great, but still, like, I know you and I have had a conversation before about, like, there's autism and everything, but then there's being introverted or extroverted, and you can be like an extrovert autistic person or an introverted autistic person, and I'm introverted. So even without my autism, I still don't want to be in busy places, and I don't want to be, and that's a choice. That's not like, I don't need the world to adapt to that.
So can I give you a flip of what you just said with the homemade group? So that little girl needs quiet because it dysregulates her when it's loud. My ADHD kid is massively loud, and if she doesn't get that out, she then internally dysregulates because she's not allowed to get it out. So how do we level it with all these different things that go on and all these different, like, where's the line of saying, yes, I understand that this environment is too loud for her, can we change the environment a bit? But if you've got another person in the environment that's then needs that environment, where do we, like, where's the level? Like, where do we get to?
To me, that's, you have to find the right group. Like, our group are quite happy to, like, it's just got a little bit loud and we bring it down. But absolutely, like, there are groups that I don't go to because there are a lot of children there who have that need to be very energetic and very loud. That's not suitable for me or my children. So there is that element that, like, yeah, because you can't
It's
suit
adapting
everybody.
it to your kid, right? Like, you have to adapt it to a certain extent. You got to find the right place for your kid that also adapts to your kid.
We always done that. Don't we
Yeah.
always do that? Even as adults, don't we do that? We, like, in the work environment, we adapt to the people around us. And isn't that, but if we repress our children and don't allow them to exhibit behavior that feels bad or that society disapproves of, aren't we just forcing a kind of conformity that as adults we wouldn't expect to have to force upon ourselves. I don't see a lot of ADHD women or autistic women sort of or men, it's later in life saying, oh, I'm gonna like not go to this place or not do that. And yet I feel like we're expecting our children to do that, otherwise we call it bad behavior. I never heard an autistic woman at 45 being told she had bad behavior.
That doesn't happen in adults. Yesterday I was in the supermarket and there was an old man. He must have been probably like, I don't know, 75, 80. And he shouted at one of my children to move out of his way. Like, she literally was just existing. Like, she was just stood existing, and he was trying to get round to the next aisle, and he shouted at her to move out the way. This man, when I tell you, the smell that was coming off of him was more offensive than anything my children could have been doing.
This is the point, isn't it? Like, who cares? Like, he can smell how he wants. Your children can behave how they want, as long as nobody's literally punching anybody or hurting the other person.
I felt like saying to him, like, I'm not going to moan at you that you absolutely reek and that I don't, and you're overwhelming my nose because you stink. Like, I'm not going to tell you to move, so don't tell my kid to move.
See, now I disagree with that, because I actually think that people should be pulled up on their behaviour, adult, child, whatever.
Really?
Yes.
Absolutely. And the problem is we don't do that. The problem is we don't. We accept behaviour.
Business, what other people are doing.
But why isn't it? Because if you're affecting me,
I'm not affecting you. You're choosing how you're affected by the person.
No. No.
Just walk out. If you don't like it, walk out, leave.
Yeah, but why should I have to leave the supermarket
because you don't like
you're
it?
Behaving badly?
Because you don't like it. Like, if I go into a shop and I don't like the shop, I walk out of the shop. I don't tell the shop to change their fixtures and fittings.
Behaviour. That's entitled behaviour, that you can just go and behave however the hell you want and everyone else just has to accept it.
No, but if I'm like, we're doing this podcast, we do our podcast a particular way. If somebody comes on and is like, I don't like the way you're doing your podcast, we'd be like, okay, we'll find another podcast and listen to that podcast, right?
Yeah, but that's different than I'm in a supermarket where I need to do my shopping and you're behaving badly and saying something unprecedented. I mean, I pulled a man up on it because he said very aggressively to my children, why aren't you in school? Why aren't you back in school? And I confronted him and I said, do not speak to my children like that. That's unacceptable. I do not have to accept that behaviour, because if we teach our children that we just have to accept behaviours, we go back to what Charlotte said, people will be in abusive relationships.
No, but that's a different thing.
I'm supposed to accept that behaviour.
And I completely agree with what you're saying, because that's a completely different thing, because that is somebody verbally attacking your children. Now, obviously, you're 100% going to intervene on that. Or if somebody verbally attacks you or anything that is an interaction with the other person that is unpleasant, or is against your boundaries or what you think is acceptable, you push back against that 100%. I'm talking about behavior that is happening around you that is nothing to do with you. A child who is screaming, or a child who is lying on the floor, or an adult who is like listening to music loudly, like that. I suppose that's the point I'm making. It's not, if it's not actually affecting you, or if it's not on you, like against you, pointed at you.
I suppose it depends, doesn't it? Because it's like, I have a real thing about when people listen to really loud music in the garden, because it's like, now I can't enjoy my garden because you want to listen to your... So it depends on the context. Yes, if they're blaring loud music out of a car driving along, it doesn't have a huge impact on me. But if I'm trying to sit in my garden and chill out and enjoy my garden, and you're playing really loud music and I can't do that, then yeah, that absolutely has an impact on me, and that's not okay. We do need to be aware of the fact that everybody has a right to enjoyment. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't enjoy your music, but there's a balance and a compromise to be had there. And that's what people don't do. When we sit there and say, well, it's on you how you react to my behaviour, or I'm allowed to behave like this because I've got this, or I need to play loud music because I've got ADHD and I need to like dance, and like I love, like, loud music is really regulating for me at times, but I put headphones in and I get it that way, so it doesn't impact other people. Like, I still get what I need, but I'm not dysregulating everybody else around me.
We've lost the ability to have empathy with anybody else, because we're like, we can't, it seems now that everywhere you go, everyone is just concentrated on whatever it is that they need, and there's no leeway for anywhere else. My one, I get into arguments probably weekly in car parks with people that park in kids spaces. Now, I am going to scream at you if you are especially if you are then leaving no spaces for me to get my car in. I will sit in front of your car until you get out and move. I don't care. Like, I'm having none of it. I absolutely don't care. The other week someone done it, and my go-to is I scream, "Oh my God, you've left your baby in the car." I know they haven't got a baby in the car, but I'm telling them that they've left their baby in the car. Most people then poo their pants and go back to their car and move it. Some people get lippy, and one woman in Tesco's, she was sat in her car in a kid's space, sat in it. And I pulled up and I said, I parked next to her, and I didn't say anything at first. But then what happened was my kids had got out the car and they were like running up and down like next to my car. And she was giving dirty looks to my children for moving near her car. And I just said, I knocked on a window. I said, "Excuse me, you're sat in a kid's space?" She went, "Yeah." And I went, "Well, you need to move because you don't have a kid in the car and you're taking up a space of somebody that needs it." She went, "Well, you don't know that I'm waiting for someone that's got kids." I said, "I don't care if you're waiting for someone that's got kids." I said, "You haven't got a child in that car right now, and you are taking up a space of somebody else that needs it." I said, "And not only that, you're then giving my children dirty looks for getting out of their car in a child space and moving next to the child space car," which is exactly what they're for, because when you pull up in a normal space, your kids don't have any space next to you to get out of the car and move freely. Hence why there's bigger child spaces, because that's what they're there for. You sat in your car eating your lunch in a kid's space is not okay.
But isn't this the problem, though? But isn't this the problem, Charlotte, is that you made a judgment that her behavior was bad behavior. She made a judgment that your children's behavior was bad behavior. And isn't this the problem, is that we're all just, we are drawing the parameters about what is good behavior and bad behavior. Like,
Yeah, but her judgment's trash.
yeah, well, yeah, but you would say that.
I do agree. I do agree with what you're saying to a certain extent, in that, yeah. Do you need this? Do you need this? What? Sorry. I've lost what I was going to say now. Bobs, can you take it away? I'll put your headphones in. She's doing a Romans.
Emily's getting dysregulated by the noise.
I am. So many people. Yeah, take
So
it
she's
into
going to
the
start
kitchen,
eye twitching.
yeah. I do get what you mean, and it's something that I try and teach my girls as well, is that, like, we don't have to get so affected by other people's behavior. Like, that's their stuff. That's what's going on for them. Like, we get to choose how we react. I do agree with that. But I do agree with, if we all thought a little bit more,
Who decides what it
it's
is,
like,
though, Charlotte?
I have 3 kids in a car. I have 3 kids in the car, but I don't park in the children's spaces, because my kids can get themselves in and out the car. I try and leave those spaces for people who've got younger children, because the point of them is that you can get a child out.
Yeah, because it's really
Car
hard
seat.
getting a kid out of a car seat.
I just don't care about that. And so, as far as I'm concerned, that to me isn't bad behavior, because I just don't care. I just think, as
But
far
do
as
you
I'm
not care because? Do you not care right now because you're so far away from when that
No, I
was
didn't
happening
care
to
then.
you?
I never cared. There's some that I don't care about that, and so I don't consider that bad behavior. So I've made that call that for me that isn't bad behavior.
So even
like,
when there's a sign next to the car parking space,
I don't
that
give a
says
stuff what
only
the
for-
supermarket tells me to do. I would do what I want to do. I don't just obey
She's completely
signs.
left wing. She's gone. She's
No, I just
over
don't
there.
do what I'm told. I'm just not interested. I will make the decision myself based on what I think is the right thing to do, and I just don't care about that. I don't, as it happens, I don't park in those spaces because there's other spaces. So I just don't, like, I just think it's kind of rude. So I just don't do that. But, like, I don't have a judgment about other people. Like, I'm just like, you do what you want to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. And so I don't consider that bad behaviour. And the point I'm
So
making
what if
is
someone
that,
cut in front of you in the line? Say if you're queuing up
yeah,
for
but this
paying
is
for
the
your
point I'm
shopping.
making, is you could ask me all these questions and I will have an opinion on what I think is bad behaviour, just like you have an opinion on what you think is bad behaviour. Emily has an opinion on what she thinks is bad behaviour, and everyone listening will have their own opinions on it. But isn't this the point? Is that we decide what is bad behaviour based on our values and our perspective. So there is no such thing as bad behaviour because we all just decide it, right? And isn't that okay?
No.
I think the point is that bad behaviour exists less if we are all just more mindful of other people. And I think the point that you're making there, Eleanor, is that you think you don't park in there because you are taking a stance that, yeah, I don't need to park in those spaces. I can park wherever I want, so I'm not going to park in them. But you also don't take the time up, the like stress. You don't take on the fact that other people are parking in there. If they're doing that, that's their choice. And I think there's like a middle ground of like, we don't have to get as affected by other people's behaviour, but we also, there would be less of that behaviour if people just thought a little bit more.
My thing is with that is I physically cannot then go shopping or wherever I'm going if I can't park in one of them spaces. So if someone has taken up a space that don't need it, I am affected by that because I will then have to go somewhere else because right now I can't fit getting my kids.
The wider point though is that there is no such thing as bad behaviour. So we can't say, well, this isn't autism, it's bad behaviour. This isn't ADHD, it's bad behaviour. We're giving these children labels because we don't like bad behaviour. If there is no such thing as bad behaviour, because we all have a different perspective of what it is.
There's too many nuances. There's too many
agreed.
nuances to things. I mean, I worked in the prison system for a long time, and you can always,
That is always bad behaviour.
Why?
It is bad behaviour.
There are home-educated parents who are threatened with going to jail because they don't put their child in school. So that is not always bad behaviour.
It's not always bad behaviour, but it's also really interesting because when you actually work with them and you look back and you can see why that behaviour has come about. And, it's the same with a child. You can always look and say, either, it's the parents' fault, or it's because of the environment, or it's because of this. And so therefore, this label of bad as opposed to good, it's just behaviour. And some of it is acceptable and sometimes it isn't, according to different...
you. Like sometimes it's acceptable
society,
to you.
if you're
Yeah, but who
talking about
cares
it in
what
terms of
society thinks
laws.
is acceptable? Like
So what if you
20
go
years
to the
ago,
cinema?
society didn't think homosexuality was acceptable. Like, who cares?
If someone kills your child for drink driving, you would want them to be punished for that, right?
Yeah, but that's about
Like,
basic morality. You're talking about the social norms or acceptability in society.
No, I'm not. I'm talking about, in some situations, behaviour under society's laws and things is deemed right or wrong.
But don't we choose that as well? I mean, we clearly do because we're home educated.
Yeah,
We're going
yeah.
against the norm, aren't we? We're choosing that isn't a norm we agree with.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is that behaviour is just behaviour. Label, we can always, that's why it's so hard to be on like a jury or anything like that, because the nuances of behaviour and the reasons behind it and the circumstances and all of that is so hard. It's so hard.
Fina just said the zoo incident.
I don't even want to know. I'm too terrified to hear what the zoo incident is.
That was near us,
awful.
right? So that was near our house. There's a little like a mini zoo, like it's a very private little zoo, like family run zoo. And there was a family with he was 2 or 3? 3-year-old looking over the crocodile enclosure, and an adult disabled man picked him up and threw him into the crocodile enclosure. And the man got arrested instantly, but then he was let out because he doesn't understand that he can't do that. So he now, we don't know whether there's no consequences, some consequences. We don't know what's happened next, but basically he has been unarrested because his intellectual level disability basically excuses him from understanding that that wasn't okay. So there's a
Saying
family
it
with a
like it's a
3-year-old
bad thing. Do you think that's a bad thing?
that he was
Yeah,
excused.
you think he should go to jail?
No, I think the carers should have been put in jail. That's who I
Yeah,
think.
but then also, but if we're going down that route, that their behaviour was just their behaviour. Was it bad? Was it not? Was it their responsibility?
That's the same.
Well, it
That's the
clearly
same
wasn't
thing
his.
as no, but that's the same thing as what I'm saying about when we have children that have these disabilities, because it starts when they're children, right? It doesn't start when they're adults. It starts when they're children. If that adult child had been taught and, you know, really, really, really I don't know his background. I don't know if he was paid attention, not paid attention. I don't know what his parents were like. I don't know any of that. But this keep thingying of, oh well, you know, he can do that because he's autistic. That's how we get into situations like that. If we have
I don't think
absolutely
they're
no
saying,
consequences.
no one's saying that he should do that, or he can do that, or he could do that, or that that's allowed. They're just saying he shouldn't go to jail for it, surely.
No, you'd be surprised. There was people saying like, you know, we can't say anything bad about this man because he genuinely doesn't understand.
Yeah, but that's
Like
different.
that.
Like like he shouldn't do it, but that doesn't mean we should condemn the man himself, because obviously he's got stuff going on, right? So like that's a different
But
thing.
what they were saying was that he therefore shouldn't have been in a place like that.
Yeah.
Like
No, he
he
shouldn't
should
have.
have had more supervision and all of those, or he shouldn't. But like, why should he be able to go to a zoo where he could do something like that to that child?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, again, that's the whole thing, isn't it? You should like,
What's the consequences for the man that's done that behavior? Because is he now next week going to be allowed to go to a mountain climbing thing where he can push a kid off a cliff?
Like what I think we're all agreeing is that it wasn't his fault. It was the people who took him, who wanted to go to the zoo, who wanted a day out in the sunshine. So they took this person that probably should have not done that, should have stayed somewhere that was more secure, right? The issue was not him. The issue was the support structure he had around him.
that goes full way back to the beginning when we were talking about if your children are going to be hitting other children or screaming or whatever, should you be taking them to somewhere then? Like, should you be taking them to that environment where they're going to be dysregulated and screaming and hitting other children? And it comes back to, it's about the parenting, it's about the carers, it's about people who do have the ability to make those decisions and do have an understanding of how behaviour is impacted by environment, by situations, by our nervous systems, that's what needs to be sort of managed. And
Well, the thing is, if we look at it logically, right, and whether people hate me for this or not, I don't, whatever. But in what other situation in the world, in what other circumstances where we're talking about behaviour of people, is it okay that someone repeatedly does something to hurt other people and then there's no comeuppance whatsoever?
But we're all
for them?
agreeing that. We all agree that if somebody's behavior hurts another person, right, physically or emotionally, right, although that's a nuanced area, but let's just say physically then, or feels aggressive to the person, that's not okay. That person shouldn't go there. The parent should have made a better decision in putting that child into that situation. But I suppose I think what the article, the Telegraph article, was talking about was this wider idea of bad behavior, which is like a child who's sitting in school and not listening, a child who is like throwing their toys out of the pram, a child that is screaming or shouting, a child that is like, mummy, 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 I want those sweets, like a child that is not answering a parent or an adult who says, how are you today? And the child is like, bleh. Like all of these things could be perceived as bad behavior. They're not hurting anybody. They're going against what we think how we think children should behave. Now, because we all agree that nobody should hurt another human, right? I think we all agree that's not acceptable. Ethically, it's not acceptable. But what about that kind of bad behavior that society says children shouldn't behave like this? Oh, you can't just say it's autism.
You know, the one that really bugs me is the having to say thank you or having to hug
What do you say?
people is
What do you say? It's like, don't tell my children what to say.
my children, and particularly one of my children is she's verbal at home and in situations she's comfortable in, but outside of the home she's non-verbal, and people find that really difficult, and they see that as bad behavior, and they see it as bad parenting if I'm not making her talk. And it's like, and I agree with stuff like that. It's like, why doesn't impact anybody in any way? Why would that be labelled as wrong? Like in school, that would be labelled as wrong, but you need to answer the question. You need to do this. You need to do that.
I feel like if you're an adult that's been offended and it's ruined your day, if a kid ain't said thank you to you, you need therapy.
Yeah, but
Like,
Charlotte,
I don't get it.
Yeah, come to me for therapy. Charlotte, what's your opinion then on manners?
Manners?
Yeah, you strike me
I
as
think
somebody
that-
who probably instills manners in your children, no?
I do, but I don't enforce it. I model manners. I teach manners, as
You don't
in,
encourage
you
it.
know, I say, Ralph, hang on. I say please and thank you. Yes, shh. I say please and thank you to my children, and I apologise, and I model all this behaviour in front of my children. There would never be any punishment. Again, I've got a child like Emily's who at home, he would say please and thank you. He would say blah, blah, blah. But out in public, if it's people that he doesn't know, he just shuts down. He won't speak. He doesn't want to talk to people. Now he's 14. He does, and he has learned to do that. And it has come, like, you know, it's taken a long time to get him there. And he now knows that it's just polite. And, you know, you do just have to be polite to people. And people, it's a consequence of what you want, I think. Like, if you are okay with people thinking that you're... Shh, if you're okay with people thinking that you're rude or whatever the annotation is to that, then fine, don't say thank you. If you do not care that people will think that way about you, then don't worry about it. But if you are someone that is going to get upset that someone's called you rude or called you, you know, whatever, you haven't got any manners, blah, blah, then you need to teach your children to have manners, because you can't get upset if you're not teaching them how to do it. My thing in life is that anything that you are going to be upset by, that you are going to be offended by, if it's something that you can change, then that's your responsibility to do it. Like if you are going to get offended that someone's going to say that you smell or, you know, whatever, then don't smell. Because if you're going to get upset, if you don't care that someone said that about you, then carry on your day and smell as much as you like. But if you are going to be offended with somebody being, you know, calling you out on whatever it is that you're doing, then you need to fix that for yourself. But equally, I don't think it's up to other people, outside of people, like a shop assistant. It's not your place to tell my kid to say thank you. That's my place to tell my kid to say thank you. If that's a moral that I want instilled in my children, I will instill it. But if you want it instilled in the public, well, then go and get a different job, because not everyone's going to say thank you to you. So go, and if it offends you, go and work somewhere else.
But also there's, you know, you might not say thank you, but if, you know, you smile at someone, or, you know, there are other ways of showing your appreciation without having to use the exact words that society expects you to do, and it's rude if you don't do that. And I think that's what we don't sort of give enough grace for, that behaviour doesn't have to look exactly like someone else is expecting for it to be okay behavior. Like, it goes back to who decides what's okay behavior. For some people the expectation is that, for others it's not.
And I think that's what I was saying. If you are someone that's offended by XYZ, then you need to remove yourself from that situation. You can't expect everybody to agree with you in what you think. Like, the world doesn't work like that. You can't expect every single person in the world to have the same morals as you. There are, you know, there's all different types of things. There's societal morals, there's, you know, laws, there's, like, you know, there's all different types of rules as such, but who is it? Take out the laws that are enforced by the police, as in, you know, physical abuse, blah blah blah. Yes, there are some nuances where the police are donuts and arrest people for absolute trash, fine, but take those out. Anything else that is like morals or values or whatever, that's all opinion based. It's all opinion based, and it's all down to the individual person.
But
And
it's
I
all
think
opinion based. That's the
yeah,
point I'm making. All of it is opinion based.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to take
well,
that
yeah,
stance, it's all opinion based. Law is just regulation that is put in place based on lots of popular opinion. Yeah, it's
yes, but
all
like
opinion.
killing someone
But that's still an
killing someone
opinion.
is not an opinion.
It is an opinion, of course it is. It's an opinion that it's not okay. That's an opinion. It's one most of us all agree with. That doesn't stop it being an opinion. It just means it's a more widely held opinion than the opinion that it is okay. It's still an opinion.
I think the problem is when you get into a school environment where these children have no choice. So as adults, we have a choice. If I don't like the fact that people don't say please and thank you, for an example, I don't have to be around those people. I can choose not to associate with them or not to work in a workplace where I'm treated badly, all of those things. A child in a school environment has to comply or has to accept behaviours that are not okay because there's no other...
the school's answer is find another provision. That's literally what I was told.
Yeah.
They were like, if you don't like it,
which isn't easy. And then if you do find another provision, i.e. home education, then you're told that's not okay.
Exactly.
And I think that's where it's becoming an issue, because it's like, well, okay, if you think that my child's behaviour is bad, well, I'll remove them from the school then and I will go elsewhere. Or if I don't like the behaviour, then I'll remove them. But then you're challenged on that. And it's like, well, why? You can't have it both ways. If you are going to have an opinion on the behaviour of my child or my opinion on other people's behaviour, then you have to allow me to make a decision based on that.
Yeah, that's exactly what Fina said. She said that the school was moaning that her son was doing XYZ behaviour. So then when he didn't go to school, they were moaning that he weren't at school. And it's like, well, okay, well, I can't win then. That doesn't make any sense. The one thing I will say, that I didn't actually read that article full to the brim, top to bottom. Was it specifically about school, Eleanor? Was
No.
it like the bad behaviour? It wasn't. See, this is the bit that I'm thinking is where we're all getting into. This is the bit where I'm thinking that we're all getting into this hoo-ha, because the bit that I can't understand, why do we keep doing these posts and doing these labels and doing this like marketing stuff with the word SEN in it? Because SEN is special educational needs. But if we're talking about behaviour in the world, why are we talking about SEN? I feel like media and marketing are doing an unnecessary and biased, like, opinion-based connection between SEN and behaviour, because actually special educational needs is nothing to do with behaviour in society. With that, they are literally two completely different things that don't even coexist with each other. When you're talking about behaviour in children, you're talking about their behaviour in every other place in the world, you know, as a person. But we keep putting SEN label on it. I don't get it.
It's because there are people out there who say, oh, my child's behaving like that because they're SEN.
Why are people saying that? How weird.
Because
Why?
because that's the whole point of the article, is that people are using labels such as SEN or ADHD because people lump it together as ADHD and autism diagnoses and they call it SEN.
People use special needs. The article actually used the term special needs, and they only use it for children. You don't see Instagrammers with ADHD saying I've got special needs. They talk about their ADHD or their autism. For some reason, when it comes to children, we seem to think it's okay to call it special needs. And I don't know why it's a bad term, but like we use it for children, but we don't use it for adults. It's very weird that as adults we use a really...
They do use it for adults, but only if they're like severely, you know, level 3 severe autistic. I will give you a little, I haven't told either of you this yet because I haven't spoke to either of you, but there are a lot of people that will sit here on this topic and say, no, there aren't adults that do that. No one uses an excuse as their behaviour. I went to a hospital appointment on Friday with the 2-year-old paediatrician, and as I was walking in, there was a mum behind me with her child who was probably 10, maybe 9 or 10, and she was telling him, don't speak, they don't think you can talk, do not speak, don't say anything, no one needs to hear you. And he was going, but can I just tell them that I struggle speaking in this bit, not this bit? And she was actively telling her child to lie to a doctor, and I can imagine she's the sort of person that if he goes and then calls someone fat or calls someone ugly, she will be the person that turns around and goes, oh, it's because he's he can't really speak properly and he's autistic, so that's how he communicates. Well, I've just heard him communicating with you just fine, and you telling him to shut up and stop talking. And this is the thing that we need to accept. There are adults in this situation that are using their kids' diagnosis as an excuse for whatever it is that they want. Do they just want a cop-out for not parenting and sticking them in front of a screen all day? Maybe. Do they want an excuse because they want to claim DLA and get £500 a month to stay at home and look after their kid? Maybe. Do they want the excuse that they then don't have to go to work because they're technically classed as a carer? Maybe. I don't know. There is going to be lots of different people doing lots of different things. But the point is, these behaviours that we keep seeing, i.e., like we're saying, the generic behaviour, I won't say bad, but, the generic horrible behaviour towards other people, we can't keep excusing it. We're gonna literally have a generation of adults that think it's okay to batter people because they've got ADHD. It's not okay. We're not. No, I don't want to be in that life, actually. I don't want to be there. Zoe just said lazy parenting. It is lazy parenting.
It's lazy adulting as well.
Lazy. It's just lazy altogether.
But I was just thinking that exactly what Emily's saying. If we're going to call it lazy parenting, we have to call it lazy adulting when people do the same thing about themselves. And are we prepared to say that?
As well as diagnoses, people use it for other things as though it's my addiction. Again, I worked with addicts for years, and it would always be, it's not, I can't do anything about it. It's my addiction. And it's your choice of how you view that. I know that we did the episode on diagnoses and whether you choose to talk about it in an empowering way or a disabling way. And I think that when we talk about but it's because of my autism, or it's because of my addiction, or it's because of my circumstances, or it's because of my childhood, it's because of this, we are not taking responsibility, and we're also not actively, sort of moving forward, choosing to, we can choose to wallow in all of that, or we can choose to make it,
the other one is
make us stronger.
I can't work because of my anxiety. That one, I can't. That one, when someone, and I don't mean the people that genuinely struggle with anxiety and can't work. They're not the ones that I mean before anyone starts going at me. I mean the people that personally that in daily life will mouth off at a tea towel, but then literally say that they can't go to work because they've got anxiety. Like those people. And unfortunately, I hate to say it because I don't like talking about politics and governments and all of that nonsense, but because we've made it so easy to get, things like DLA, for example. DLA, you can get DLA without a diagnosis at all, which whilst for some children, yes, it's absolutely needed because the diagnosis takes forever, and there are doctors that don't listen, and there are doctors that it is opinion based and they have no clue whether it's their head or their ass. But we have got these lazy all-rounder people, adults, that are tapping into these loopholes in the system and using that to their advantage, and they are the people that. But then again, how are we ever going to seek all these people out? How are we going to how are we going to prove all of this? Because like we've just been saying, it's all opinion based, right? How are we going to solve this problem? Well, we're not, are we?
I think that I think that saying that somebody's lived experience, lovely phrase, somebody's lived experience of their anxiety is or isn't enough for them to get a job is not our right. I think it's up to the person who has that experience of the anxiety to decide if they can and can't work. And the idea that DLA is easy to get is like insane, because it's extremely hard to get and you have to jump through like a million hoops to get it, and it's such a dehumanizing process that leaves people feeling utterly invalidated. I've just wanted to end with that.
That must be the same as the home ed report stuff. Then it must be like a bit postcode lottery, because everybody that I know that I have been around, I think probably 50-50 don't have diagnosis. They literally sent their DLA form in and they got a check through the post within 2 weeks.
We're all moving to your neighborhood, Charlotte.
They all, and I don't know whether it's time or what, because when I did it 14 years ago for Archie, it was very hard and I had to appeal it twice, and I had to have a A4 wedge book of evidence, that thingy. Now I'm seeing more and more, obviously because I have people contacting me about this, right, to help with the forms and and so many more people, like their kids don't even have a diagnosis and they're getting approved for it. Like I see that personally. I'm not just making that as an assumption, I'm seeing that personally.
There's a difference between not having to have a diagnosis and still having to have evidence.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah. I don't think it's because they have changed the rules that you don't need a diagnosis because of the diagnostic process, and it was unfair to wait for people to have to go through when you've got to wait several years for a diagnosis. It's unfair to say that they can't have support because they've got to wait.
100%, and that's why they've changed the rules, and I'm glad they've changed the rules, because the diagnosis system is just an absolute just crock of turd. But at the same time, this is what I'm saying, these minority of people that are lazy and are, not doing the right thing, how do we find that out? How do we stop that from happening? Like, that's what I mean. Like I'm talking about the minority of people that are choosing to do that. Like these people that need the help.
Won't there be a minority of people who will always push the boundary?
Yeah.
Do we need to worry about that? Because as long as it's supporting people who really need it.
Yeah.
And the same with what Eleanor was saying about behaviour. Why do you need to get affected by it?
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. It's the minority that are people, like these articles are making out like this minority is taking over the majority of stuff. Which is it, or is it not, or is it opinion, or is it what is happening here? Who knows? Well, exactly, right? Who knows?
If anyone is listening or watching this on replay, let us know what your opinion is. Put a comment below and tell us off. If it's me or if it's Charlotte or if it's Emily. No one tells Emily off because she always has a really moderate opinion, so you're always safe.
I don't know. Emily went in. I think Emily would get eggs today.
No
Emily's
way,
getting
man.
the eggs.
No one eggs Emily.
Emily's like our teacher's pet. Like no one tells her off because she's always so on the fence. But she actually got cross. She got cross then, and she started. So I don't know. Maybe Emily's getting the eggs this week.
No chance of that. Well, let us know if you're listening to this, what you think. If you would like to listen to any of our podcasts, they are available everywhere that you stream anything. Home Education Matters podcast. You'll recognize us from the little blue swirl. And next week, we are going to be talking about, is home education a lifestyle choice? Another one where I think we're going to have really different opinions. And so join us for that one next week. And we will be putting this on our YouTube channel in a week's time, when I feel like
getting cancelled straight away.
Cancelled. I might use the Taylor Swift song, but she would probably sue me. She would cancel me for using her song. Cancelled.
She'd cancel you. Exactly. Yeah, get Taylor Swift on it. Yeah, we'll use her. Fine. We'll get bigger viewings.
That's true. All right. Thank you so much, you two, and everyone who's watching. Have a lovely day.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for today's Home Education Matters podcast. See you at the next one. Have a lovely day.